Right. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. We're very excited to have all of you here. Today we will have an executive roundtable for all of us who are very curious about how AI is changing how we behave and how we work in the modern era right now. Our topic is serving the AI wave and how to ride the disruption without owning the ocean. We'll have a full agenda today. So the first 5 minutes will be just welcoming and introducing our panelists. You will see a full panel of very influential experts and industry leaders here. And then they will go into 35 minutes of panel discussion. So in this panel discussion, we will have a few questions that's all related to AI, cloud cost, and how they can translate into your innovation and provide you with ROIs. And we'll get into some key takeaways and announcements towards the end, and we'll have something to give away at the end of this session as well. So please stay tuned. Very, very exciting agenda here today. Okay, I will let the panelists just introduce themselves. Maybe we can start with Gary.
Yeah, Gary Wang. I'm the CTO at TMI. TMI is an IT consulting, IT service company. We support the U.S. public sector market and also global private enterprise organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mon?
Hi everyone, I'm Mon, CEO of Altitech, both here in the UK and in Dubai. We are a digital transformation and a value-added reseller working through migration to the cloud.
Okay, that's exciting. And Mukesh?
Yeah, thanks, Desmond. Hi, everyone. Mukesh Ranjan, Vice President with Everest Group. Everest Group is a research and consulting organization focused on the global services industry. Within that, I have spent a decade now advising clients in the cloud and infrastructure space. Looking forward.
It's very nice to have you here, Mukesh. All right, we'll move on to Sabi.
Excellent. Thanks, Desmond. My name is Sabi Wardach. I have almost 30 years in technology with 21 plus years in public sector. Excited to be here. Currently, I am the CIO at Clackamas Community College. I'm also a keynote speaker as well as just published my book. Thank you.
Wow, that's very exciting. I want to hear more about your book today as well.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, Suchet.
Hey, thanks, Desmond. Sabi, wonderful book. So I have 35 years in the industry, mostly building enterprise software, and 5 years back started Aquila Clouds along with Desmond. We are very proud to be serving enterprises across the world and looking forward to this session on how our technology can help with the AI wave as well.
Thank you so much, Suchet. And I am Desmond Chan. I'm your moderator for today. And please feel free to just enter your questions along the way, and we will have our other support folks behind the scene to answer those as much as possible. And we will also have a live Q&A at the end. So do not feel shy about bringing up anything during the session and towards the end of the session for Q&A. Okay, so now let's get into the executive roundtable. So, this is really going to be about AI cost, AI economics, ROI, and such. And, I've been talking to quite a lot of the folks in the industry, and then everybody is so worried about how AI will change how we work and, how they can actually ride the wave. So the first question that I have is, how is AI fundamentally changing the cloud economics? Given that clouds are already, quite expensive, or the cost of that has been rising over the years. But how is AI going to change that over the next 2 to 3 years? And where do you think that the real cost pressure is coming up from? And is it the compute infrastructure? Is it the development of new AI applications or elsewhere? I'm very curious about what Mukesh thinks, because Mukesh, you talk to quite a lot of researchers and users as well. So what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, thanks, Desmond, and a great question to set this up, right? And in fact, maybe taking a step back, what was cloud economics and how it all started has a lot to do with how it's changing today. And 2 or 3 years back, what happened was a lot of people had adopted cloud at a pace, and they did not really think it through, right? In terms of adoption of AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, a lot of workloads were put onto it. And suddenly people started to see a rise in costs at a level which they were not anticipating before. And that led to the entire science of cloud economics coming up. And it was a real hit in the market, right? Enterprises adopted a lot of tools. In fact, a couple of years back, at one of the events, I saw so many of cloud economics players at the podium that it was very surprising that so many have come up. And I think since then, what has happened is cloud economics, everyone started to understand it well, people started to implement it. And right when people were doing it, the entire wave of AI came in and changed the entire dynamics of cloud economics in terms of what was happening. Now, how I would put it in very simple terms is despite the complexity, whatever we were doing within cloud economics was still more static or rule based, and it could be done in a certain, specified manner. But with AI coming in, what has happened is that the entire landscape has become extremely dynamic, right? It's really not possible to build very stringent rules based on which you can optimize the costs. You really don't know what's happening within the enterprise. I was speaking to a large tech provider last year, and they were completely, they're not sure in terms of how do they manage this. One Salesforce team was doing their own AI consumption, right? The other teams were doing their own AI consumption. They did not have the visibility in terms of what's happening within enterprise. And that is where I think this entire, core concept around cloud economics with AI has evolved. It's become entirely different, right? In terms of how it needs to be tackled. And obviously, I'm sure we'll be discussing more about it today. The second component of this is also very interesting, right? In terms of where the maximum pressure right now is. The way I see it right now, the maximum pressure is at the infrastructure level because of the sourcing constraints within the overall geographical regions of manufacturing chips and so on. So the largest pressure is at the infrastructure level. However, in the next 2 to 3 years, what I believe is that slowly it will start to shift more at the applications level, very similar to cloud, right? Everything in the beginning was about the infrastructure, but slowly as we moved forward, it became more about application modernization, cloud native application dev. And that's how the entire landscape will also start to change with AI, right? So potentially going down the line, it will be more applications that will drive it, but right now infrastructure is under a lot of pressure.
Wow, that's very insightful. So, Gary, I'm very curious about what you think. In your career as a CTO, you must be seeing a lot of these things changing. So, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question you ask about the cloud economics, actually, it has it could be a different perspective from different angle, depending on where you are in this whole AI space, right? If I'm OpenAI, I'm a Google, then I would look at the cloud economics from different angle, because how to build the infrastructure, how to support the service I'm going to deliver. But I think because EMI is mostly an IT service company, we work with our customers more closely. So I want to really address this, just add some additional color from the user perspective, the user of AI in the cloud service perspective. If you look at the industry trend in recent year, particularly in the last 2 years, the AI inference cost has actually growing tremendously, and it has become a increasingly bigger share of the cloud cost for a lot of our customers. A lot of customers are adopting AI solutions in the cloud, and the inference cost is just growing secretly, but over time it become explosively. And to the point, a lot of our customers are starting to complain, this just like the cloud adoption 10 years ago, the AI adoption is going to burn their pocket, and they're seeing the cost they were never budgeted before, and they were surprised. They got a sticker shock by the AI token cost they started to receive. Now, in terms of the cost pressure, I think, if I'm we have two types of customers. One type of customers, they tend to use cloud to host their own language models. It could be open source language models. And the second type of customers, they use the LLM services, AI services provided by cloud service providers, including SaaS, software vendors. So for the first type of customers, if they want to host their own open source model in the cloud, apparently the biggest cost pressure point for them is the infrastructure cost, the compute, the CPU, the memory, the energy, and the storage. All of that is their cost, and they have to pay huge cost to run that hosting. Now, if I'm just the application user to use the AI application hosting in the cloud, then again, this inference cost, cloud token cost become extremely difficult to manage. And so I would say, that's just a different perspective, different pressure points, depending on how you want to use AI in the cloud.
Makes sense, Gary. We're only at the beginning of the AI era. What about implementing it at scale? Sabi, you have been working in this area quite a lot, and I think this is probably very dear to you. So what do you think about what are the gotchas and pitfalls that the organizations should watch out for?
Yeah, thank you, Desmond. I think one of the big things or the biggest hidden pitfalls which I've seen is when folks start treating as a technology rollout instead of an operating model change, right? It's a different thing. So what I've seen is folks stand up these pilots, which may look very great when they're in that pilot mode in the lab, but they are not wired into real workflows, data pipelines. There's no governance around it. There's no funding models attached to it, though. So they remain in that cool demo kind of stage. Because they have also underestimated the total run cost of that. All the plumbing which goes, the clean data, the integration with your legacy apps. We have some apps which are 25, 30 years old. How are you going to plug that into it? So there is a lot of other things which are involved just rolling out. If you don't budget for data engineering, right? If you're not budgeting for ML ops, the skills, the AI portfolio just will start accumulating what I call a technical and operational debt. If we don't intentionally architect these solutions for transparency, for auditability, we'll end up with just small AI experiments, which looks maybe like cool, but they become operationally fragile. And in 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot of those hiccups coming if you're not planning for that.
That's great. So Gary, coming back to you, because you said burn the pocket. How about implementing that at scale as well? Yeah, please.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback what Sabi has said, right? So what reminded me about this is there's a report from MIT. MIT did a report that based on its own research, it found out over 70 to 80% of the AI projects failed when it's trying to move from development stage to large scale deployment. And the reason for that is, apparently there are many reasons, and I think in my own observation, working with my own customers, a few I want to point out. The first one is definitely the cost shock. When you are running a development in a small development environment, right? You are dealing with a very small team. You're focusing on single product development, and the cost is to some degree is more manageable, and it's not a bigger issue within your overall budget consideration. But once you put into the production environment and using by thousands of users on a daily basis, and you can see the cost goes up very quickly, and that the budget is going to kill a lot of projects, a lot of AI projects, if you don't know how to budget, how to manage, how to automate change management issue, right? A lot of organizations are not ready to adopt AI solutions, and they don't have the process, they don't have the culture, they don't have the workforce readiness to really run AI applications. They don't even have the right ownership about which organization, which leadership should own that particular AI applications. And so this create all kind of resistance in the organizational environment. People are concerned about the job loss. They don't trust output of AI, and they don't think AI would give them the result they're expecting. It changes the job boundaries and cause all kind of concerns. The human factor can kill a AI technology project easily. And actually, I would say, in addition to cost, this will be ranked as the second as the most detrimental factor that can hurt AI implementation. And then you have other kind of operational issues, right? So when you're doing the development, you deal with ideal set of data with high quality. But when you put it into the real production environment, the data quality tend to be very low, and also fragmented, just as Sabi mentioned a moment ago. There's not enough operational discipline, like how you run the model operations, how you apply security controls, how you handle that ownership transition for the applications and AI systems, and integration challenge with existing tools and existing environment. All of that creates another challenge for a lot of organizations. And if you don't know how to manage it, you're going to fail. And to me, I think that's also another critical factor. We need to educate all our customers when they are trying to move AI to production at scale. They need to learn how to manage it at scale, and that's a major gap in the market today.
Absolutely mind-opening. Yeah, if you don't know how to manage, you probably cannot implement AI at scale. So with all these AI growth and the spend growth as well, how is that impacting the enterprise operations and decision making? And what changes are you seeing in how these organizations budget, prioritize, or scale AI initiatives? Like we've been hearing quite a lot, from the panelists that, hey, we just have to be very much mindful about our management, about budget, and so on. But are people moving along with that? What are they doing these days, and how can we, what kind of tips can we give to them? I will ask Suchit, what do you think about this?
Thanks, Jasmine, and wonderful hearing both Gary and Sabi's thoughts around this aspect. Some really real life experiences out there. 500 billion capital spend on AI in 2026. This is from Goldman Sachs. Guess where that is going to come from? It's going to come from the enterprise pocket, right? So it's a huge amount of money that's going to be spent by enterprises in this area. What I will tell you is besides this rapid spend, I think there is a definite trend, as the panelists have mentioned, right? A while back, there used to be like, hey, any project which comes up with an AI would get funded. I think there was this FOMO, fear of missing out. I think there's a fundamental shift right now in enterprises. I'm talking to all of our customers where they're asking the question about ROI. How does this really translate to a benefit to their business, to an operational efficiency model or others, right? So I think the phase one is over. 2 years, like I mentioned, in this era, now we are shifting to phase two. And this is all about accountability. So I think the key here is to be able to drive either a ROI or a business outcome, make sure that there is justification for all this compute and AI costs. I think talking to one of our customers who's a Fortune 500 retailers, this year they said they pretty much didn't allow 60% of their AI projects to proceed. This was not the case, let's say a year and a half back. One of the ones that made it is really around like supply chain and being able to dynamically adjust that. And they're seeing real benefits out of that. So there are things which AI can do, which can cause big benefit to their businesses. And they're looking at that from the ROI outcome perspective, rather than just like, hey, let's just do another AI project. I believe as we go forward, the governance, ROI, and cost management, and all of this is part of like with cloud, this FinOps term got coined. I think AI FinOps is what is going to be critical as we go forward. I think the governance models that it took us almost a decade to learn on the cloud side are going to be challenged, given there is agentic elements and even tending towards autonomous elements. And so we need to rethink some of the governance for AI. I do see there is a definite maturity that is coming to enterprises in the conversations. It's not just, should we spend a whole bunch of money on the most expensive model versus find a model which is going to give you the right result at a much lower cost. So that economic ROI conversation is starting to happen a lot more. Three trends basically from my side. So essentially, my belief is that the expensive frontier models will be only used for the high value use cases. There will be standardization and budgetary allocation. I think there's a shift from experimentation. And I think both Gary and Sabi pointed out to that, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a shift there, and there's going to be a budgetary allocation towards like, hey, let's double down, because putting something in production is a much bigger undertaking. And I think ROI becomes mandatory.
Great. Yes. I think that, even for me, I'm now thinking for many of my friends in the industry, they're all thinking about, going into these AI experiments and then, see how they can implement at scale. But where is their ROI? Where is their budget? And like many of my friends are actually just working in as a smaller enterprises, and how can they actually handle all of those? I'm just very curious about that. So Sabi, what are your perspectives?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I will, follow up to what Sujit said. The AI spend is now shifting from one of those, doing just one project. Okay, it is going to be a recurring line item, whether it's our platform, whether it's our computer, whether it's licenses. So as a CIO needs to work very collaboratively with CFO on this AI FinOps, which Sujit talked about, right? What is that unit economics based on those use cases? Maybe there are some low value experiments which we need to shut down. We need to be very deliberate about platform consolidation and what are the vendors we're going to work with. So that governance piece, who's the final person who's making those decisions, which are based on either the confidence level, clear human accountability. That's the key part in there. And then when we're talking about, the other part, what I see is budgeting is becoming more granular, right? So you have to look at the total cost of ownership, which I mentioned, how this thing is going to impact the overall organization, whether it's customer service, finance, and HR on that, and what kind of outcomes. Most of this funding, which will be based on what outcomes are we buying. And most of the time, what I've seen is organizations treat it as a technology transformation. It's not. It's a business transformation, right? So that's a conversation which we need to have so that we can shift to more, I will say governance type decisions. So it depends. The scaling now depends on that governance. It depends on investing in those center of excellence. Are you creating a shared model for these AI? Do you have training programs which are not just for your technology folks, but it is for the baseline competency across many teams? Because we can all see now that AI could be used. Anybody who has some kind of even no programming experience can start building those applications, those cool things. So AI, how are you going to manage those AI shadow systems, which is going to create all kind of havoc? And again, from cybersecurity perspectives as well, those are all kind of things which organizations need to start thinking about how it's going to impact them and how they're going to make those decisions.
Wow. Yes. Yeah, I heard some keywords being repeated: governance, accountability, visibility, right? People need to understand costs, where they are coming from, where you're spending on, and so on. So do organizations truly have control over their AI costs today? Mon, I'm not sure if you have a different perspective on all these questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Desmond, and thank you everybody else who has just given an amazing speech. Early on in my career, I was part of the Microsoft ecosystem. I was part of Microsoft, and I was leading the shift to Office 365, Azure, and Intune. So back then, it was a transition from on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, and that was a behavioral and cultural change for a lot of organizations. So I've seen what happens when a major platform transition moves faster than governance or the operating models have been put in place first. What we're seeing now with both cloud and AI is actually very similar, but the economics are far more dynamic. AI itself and the adoption is broad. I believe in a recent survey, 88% of enterprises have adopted AI of some sort, but only a third have actually adopted it to some scale. So what you'll find is that the biggest gap isn't necessarily enthusiasm. It's connecting the spend, the control, and business outcomes. But in my honest opinion, organizations don't really have full control of AI costs. They have visibility in parts. They can see elements of that spend, whether it's their cloud, the model usage, the reporting of where it sits. But AI itself and the cost itself no longer sits in one place. It spans across the infrastructure, the applications, data, and increasingly multiple environments, whether that's AWS, GCP, Oracle, VMware, whatever it might be. But as you mentioned earlier, the biggest gap is probably accountability. Visibility is always going to improve day by day. It's improving. Every single day, you can get better visibility on what you're spending. Governance itself is evolving, but ownership is often unclear. And the AI cost element cuts across both the engineering, product, manufacturing, financing, and there's no one single owner that is responsible for the outcome end to end. That's where we are.
Wow. Yes, that's really, insightful there. So yeah, I want to hear from Mukesh as well, right? Like, do you think accountability is the biggest gap, just like what Mon was saying?
Yeah, so I think the last few panelists have laid this out very well, right, in terms of what's happening. I think that's exactly where the entire situation is in terms of why enterprises do not have this in full control. Like Mohan mentioned, yes, some of the visible costs, for example, if an enterprise has a chat GPT, access enterprise wide, right? So you will know that this is the license cost that is going into this. If an enterprise is implementing or buying GPUs, right? So you'll know that this is the cost I'm paying for this. What they'll not know is what's happening with this, right? So essentially, how do you bifurcate cost? What is the value that I'm going to actually get out of this entire investment? All of those is not visible at all right now. And that's where the three things come in, right? In fact, I'll not repeat a lot of these things that have been said, but what's very interesting is, when we talk about something like governance. So governance is something that had already been there, and it was never something that was thought of as something separate, which enterprises would even be willing to pay for. This would be the first time in the history where I think governance solutions, governance frameworks will be things that enterprises will be actually willing to pay for because of the kind of complexity that is getting created with AI. None of the enterprises have this in full control, right? The visible costs are visible, but underlying things, visibility, accountability, and governance. I think these are the exact three things that are missing.
Nice.
Can I just weigh in?
Yes, please, Mon.
From what I've seen in the UK, especially with the cloud adoption and now the AI adoption, the real shift organizations need to make is from reporting after the fact to control before the cost is actually incurred. And that's through policy-driven guardrails, real-time insights, and clear ownership. That falls under the umbrella of governance. And that's how you really maintain control, visibility, and accountability of your spend.
Makes sense. Great insight. So, hey, let's switch gear a little bit. We have been talking about cost a lot, right? But I think many of the participants today, they would like to know, hey, I don't want to just spend. I want to get some monetary or get some output from these projects so that I can make my organizations profitable, right? So can we really measure AI ROI today, and how can they effectively do it? What do you see as the gap right now that can link all these AI investments to meaningful business outcomes? Mon, I'll go back to you.
In my honest opinion, can organizations and enterprises measure AI return on investment? Yes and no. What I mean by that is you can measure it, but it's not clean. It's not. It's hard to separate from where it's really adding value from. The gap itself is to do with timing. So when you're spending, cost lands immediately, but the value of actually utilizing that spend comes up later and across different parts of the businesses. So that's why it's very difficult to measure the ROI of AI, for instance. The second gap goes back to attribution. Model might improve your cycle time, decision quality, customer experiences, but unless it's tied to a particular workflow or an owner or business outcome, then it really tends to remain anecdotal. And finally, I guess the third gap is the actual operating model. Organizations are seeing real impact, not just by adding AI tools. They are seeing impact by redesigning workflows around them. And that's where we see the difference between experimentation and real value. So I guess as a community here, the real question isn't did we deploy AI? It's did we change the way we work, or did we change the way work gets done in a way that creates a measurable business impact? And if the answer is no, which in most cases it is, then it's still largely an experiment. So in simple terms, for myself, ROI only becomes meaningful when it's tied to a workflow, an owner, or a clear outcome, not just the model itself.
I wanted to add to what Mon said. If you don't align it to the outcome, then it's going to be challenging. I will give you a cool use case. We have a ChatGPT's Teams version, and one of the pieces in which we used it for cybersecurity was we used to get all these phishing emails, and we had a mailbox, and folks will send that. So a systems engineer will take at least 3 to 4 hours to look at that email, figure out whether it's a phish, and then write a response back. It used to take on average 2 to 3 hours of his time. With the GPT, created a whole prompt, maybe took him a couple of hours to create that prompt. And every time he takes that email, he submits it to the GPT, and then it actually analyzes everything and writes a response back to them. So it takes about 10 minutes of that, right? So yes, for smaller use cases, you can figure out the ROI, because what used to take one email 3 hours, like days and hours, now it's taking minutes. So yes, you can, for those smaller use cases, you can provide that ROI. But when you try to scale it, that's where the challenge starts happening.
Right. Again, back to the questions that we were discussing. How does things work at scale? I think that's very crucial here. Okay, so Sujat, in your responses so far, you have also been talking about return on investments. I think that this must be something that's dear to your heart. So what is your perspective here?
So first of all, I think totally agree with what Sabi, Mon, the rest of the panelists have said on this topic. I feel like today, when I look at a lot of the enterprises, what I find is the focus of measuring is on tokens, right? What are you measuring? You're measuring token costs. But measuring cost is not going to really give you an insight into outcomes. Sabi's example about like, hey, how do you measure operational efficiency in that use case? In some cases, I've been talking to some, if you change the sales process, you can create a measurable outcome, like I was talking to the retail industry. And I think what they are doing is by making sure they can move inventory from one place to another, understanding the signals, they can actually create measurable outcomes around their margin profile as well as sales. So being able to deploy a system and holistically understand what it does to you from either an operational efficiency benefit or from a sales a business benefit, I think that I have not seen the enterprises cohesively adopt a framework for that. And I think it's going to be very important because I can just tell you, like on the other side of it, I had like examples where there's a company where the AI costs recently, they jumped by 40% and in 6 months.
Wow. And
I can tell you 2 years back, I was working in the same company and we were trying to just get people to adopt AI and we couldn't get 10 people to adopt it. And we had to encourage people. There were all these people like, hey, please get on this bandwagon. So it's completely flipped from nobody wanting to use it to everybody is using it now. So the cost equation has changed completely. The problem I see is like as we evolve as an ecosystem, as we drive towards meaningful adoption of AI, the measuring of outcomes is really going to be very important. So I think, and one other point is really around how do you attribute? There could be, lots of times the cost is so big that you might have the same attribution. You change the sales model. With or without AI, you could have probably had the benefit. How do you attribute the benefit to the AI technology that you put in? So there is a little bit of nuance there as well to make sure that you are not, just because you have such a big cost to justify it, you are adding that nuance saying, no, this is happening because of AI. So being clear in terms of your thought process on all of those aspects is going to make sure that ROI aspects come into the enterprise. And it's very, very important, I think, to start thinking through this from, I would say, this aspect of being able to do ROI analysis is important for projects day one. Understand what outcome you start almost backwards and then build out a model and be able to measure from time to time whether that thesis you had is, and you can adjust, but at least you have a sense of getting to an outcome and having an ROI for this aspect of as we go forward in the new era. So My only last point is I think cross-functional between finance and other teams, having a cross-functional view of experts, the AI practitioners, the governance teams all coming together to make sure that the projects that you're choosing in enterprises are following the ROI trajectory you want.
Awesome.
Well, I'd like to
Yep.
add some additional
Please,
comments to just to piggyback what Sachin said, right? There are a lot of nuances in this ROI discussion for AI. And what do we know at this moment? AI is definitely a booster for productivity. And to some degree, people would think, okay, if I can improve efficiency, productivity, I can remove the cost, I can reduce the cost. But remember, you're just shifting the human labor cost to the digital cost, which is the token cost, whatever you pay for the AI services and capabilities. And so that cost reduction is something that still need to be proven. Just if you look at what the cloud adoption has been, typically it will take 2 to 3 years after the adoption takes place for people to realize to be able to calculate the exact cost of cloud. And we're actually looking at the same thing here. I think in 2 to 3 years after the AI adoption, people will start realizing how much is the exact cost of AI, and that I think that realization is still being evolved at this moment. We're not at the moment that we can clearly define what's going to be the total cost ownership of AI or AI application, AI capability. Now, on the return side, I think it varies, right? Some AI applications don't give you a direct return. Like, for example, if I can write a document 10 times faster, does that mean this writer is going to be laid off? I'm not sure about that, right? So there's other documents you need to write, you need to create. But one thing I would want to say, just from our own market, software engineering using AI definitely is a huge booster, not only for productivity, but also from a return perspective. If we can write application faster, typically it takes weeks or months. Now it can be done in a day or two. We release features, release new capabilities, release new enhancement faster to our customers. That will help us gain new customers, winning new business, and returning the same customers, right? So that's a huge return to our business, and that's why I think that ROI is very easy to calculate.
Great. So we're running out of time, but I still have one more question, just for the benefit of the audience. If you had to recommend one guiding principle for people to control and optimize AI-driven cost, what would that be? I'll ask you, Gary, if you can give one sentence or one short answer, what would that be? A guiding principle.
Just treat AI as a metered utility, which the economics must be designed, monitored, continuously measured, governed, reported, and optimized. Apply FinOps best practices to AI, just like you want to do with any other IT services and IT assets.
Perfect. Yeah, Suchet, you probably have perspective on this as well, since you and I, we have been working on controlling the AI and cloud costs. I would like to hear from you as well. One guiding principle.
So my single guiding principle is, remember, this new age, an agent will make decisions autonomously. It will do things thousands, maybe 10,000 times faster. So the proactive model, eventually your governing systems have to be autonomous as well. Monitoring the agents, making sure that there is an element of restriction, which and be able to catch any misbehavior and be able to cordon that off fast. You can't wait for 8 hours anymore. It has to the systems which are governing these AI agents and this new world has to be autonomous in nature. That is the one guiding principle, I would say, for this new age.
Desmond, if I can just add just one more comment, I guess ultimately the organizations that will win aren't the ones necessarily that will slow adoption. They're the ones that will put the right guardrails in place early. And you mentioned about FinOps. It's about moving FinOps upstream, putting governance in before commitments are necessarily made, and effectively route work to the right models and tie spend to measurable business outcomes. Those are the ones that will see the benefit of AI in the workplace.
Wow. Very, very good insights. So thank you so much to the whole panel. I have learned a lot today. And I would like to give a chance for us to give some closing remarks, also make some announcements. So let's quickly move on to the announcements part. Mukesh, you have something to say?
Yeah, thanks, Desmond. And for the benefit of everyone, just what this image on the screen right now is this is an Everest Group FinOps cost management product peak matrix assessment. Some of these assessments are done in a very detailed manner, right? It takes 4 to 5 months, and it is very comprehensive in terms of how this is assessed. And this assessment must have been the, I think, second or third iteration in this space, right? We have been assessing FinOps for quite a while now. But what has really changed this time, right? And we see Aquila Clouds to be in the leader category. What has really changed is how some of the FinOps players, product players have pivoted towards FinOps plus AI together, right? Moving on from the typical traditional cloud economics or just cost management on public cloud. And I think some of the things which we also saw for Aquila Cloud work very well was AI-driven FinOps capabilities. In terms of the demo that we saw, right, we saw a very intuitive platform with seamless integration, easy to understand, workflows were simpler. And also, I think the integration with broad multi-cloud and hybrid environments, plus a unified governance approach. I think we've talked a lot about governance, and that has been one of the key features where leaders have really stood out. And plus, in terms of some of the feedback that we heard from customers, right, to the 360-degree assessments, we also hear a lot of things from customers. I think things such as innovation, usability, broad cloud coverage. I think these are other things that the leaders bring in. And just wanted to kind of share this. And this is useful for enterprises to see who all are the players in this space, whom they can partner with and outsource some of their FinOps related services to.
Thank you, Mukesh. We're so honored to be recognized as a leader on your PEAK matrix here. Okay. Wow. Now let's talk about Sabi's new book. Sabi.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm super excited about that. It became international best-selling, so I'm very humbled with all the response which I'm getting. And it is basically, how do you lead digital transformation? If we can relate to AI, SCARE is an acronym. AI is creating a lot of stress within organizations. There is a lot of chaos because leaders are running after the shiny thing, or they feel the fear of missing out. That S and C, stress and chaos, is creating a lot of anxiety within the team, which is the A. How it's going to impact them? Is their job safe? How it's going to impact my organization? They're creating a lot of anxiety within the organization. R is resistance to change. As humans, we don't tend to change, and AI is creating us to change the way we work, the way we operate. So that's the R, and then E stands for ego. A lot of leaders have ego. They want to run after these shiny things, and they want to make things happen, even though sometimes I've seen them burn to the ground. So SCARE is that, but we need to shift as leaders. We need to shift to CARES. C stands for communicate. That your roadmap, the vision, the organizational change management part of that. How do you do that when you're transforming any organization, whether it's AI or any other transformation? Adapt. So many things are coming at us. The speed of change, which we're seeing right now, is the slowest which we'll ever see. How, as leaders, we are going to adapt to those changes. R stands for relationships. That relationship with your team, your customers, your stakeholders, your sponsors, your vendor partners. That's gonna be a key piece in there. And then E stands for empower. Do you trust? Do you empower your team to get those things done? And then S at the bottom, stay calm. Stay calm. Because if the leader starts spinning and goes into chaotic mode, your whole team is going to go into the chaos mode. So it's available on Amazon. Please go ahead. That's a QR code. You can scan it and buy a copy.
SCARE to CARES, available on Amazon. Great. I'm going to get a copy myself. Okay, so DMI and Aquila Clouds, we are getting into something big. Gary, can you do the honor?
Yeah, absolutely, Desmond. So DMI has elected to be a service partner with Aquila Clouds, and also we're white labeling Aquila Cloud solution for Cloud FinOps and AI FinOps to support our customers and accounts to manage the AI cost and the cloud cost. So from AI cost FinOps strategy perspective, we have a offering tiered model and tiered hosting, AI hosting solution for our customers. Also, we leverage Aquila Cloud to deploy a lot of innovative solutions to allow our customers to monitor, control, govern, report, optimize the AI cost. And the driven approach is, just using Aquila Cloud solutions to eliminate or prevent waste at every level in the AI applications. Reduce the wasteful request, reduce wasteful duplication, wasteful memory use, wasteful computation, wasteful autonomy. Just deliver the best AI solution, best AI experience to our customers, and make their budget stay and manageable.
Makes sense. Like, yeah, we
Awesome.
are going to eliminate all those waste and provide more governance and such together. Great. I think now let's switch to our 4.1 release. So Andromeda Agentic AI platform, where we offer the FinOps and BuildOps capabilities, we will have a new release this month. So please stay tuned. We're going to have like more details announced in our webinar and demos. And within this 4.1 release, you see our capabilities for FinOps for AI, LLM, token consumption visibility, cost visibility, attribution, and we have like a lot more announcements to make in that webinar. Please stay tuned. Last but not least, I don't know how to put on a British accent, but I will let Mon and Suchit do the honor here. So, Suchit, maybe you can go first.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my journey in the startup, first, thank you to each and every one of you for trusting us and building us to where we are at today. We already are a global presence in this space. And Mukesh, thank you for the recognition on the quadrant. Gary, thank you for the partnership. Mon, Sabi, Sabi is a thought leader, and we've been having like these really intense debates about how things will change in the future. And I find not only his knowledge of the industry, but also his philosophies intriguing and very beneficial. So as a startup, you built from almost like a piece of paper to where we are at today. Proud to start our UK office along with Mon. Mon, do you want to take over and talk a little bit more about us?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's a humbling experience to be here. It's extremely exciting to be leading the UK expansion for Aquila. To give you a little bit of history, Altitech, the organization I run currently, is a cloud solution provider. And so we have many customers on the cloud at this moment in time. Where customers struggle is the ability to have some form of visibility, some form of governance, and some form of optimization. And so we started off similar to DMI as a partner to Aquila Clouds within the UK. And then it became increasingly clear that rather than becoming partner, why not be Aquila Clouds? Because once you're part of a vendor, then you can get to the hyperscalers far quicker than becoming a SI, a systems integrator. And so with that in mind, we're going to take Aquila Clouds, not just the UK, but we're going to shift east into Europe, Middle East, and the Far East. And I think this is just a start. So extremely, extremely excited to do this. Bringing the combination of visibility, governance, and optimization into organizations that we're currently working with as Altitech, and then expanding that into more complex and regulated environments. I think Aquila Cloud will do phenomenal in the next 5 years.
Yes, we definitely can do phenomenal in the next 5 years. And Mon, I really, really like your background. I just want to mention it.
It's Andromeda. So 4.1 comes with the agentic platform. So yeah, I love it too. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, Ashad, I will let you lead the call to action and Q&A.
Thank you so much, Desmond. And yes, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And this is where measurable outcome matters. And Suchit was exactly talking about investments, ROI, and real-time insights with Aquila Cloud. With that, call to action. If you're interested in AI and cloud assessment, then please scan the QR code, send us the email. The QR code will automatically generate the email. You just need to click send. Just a call out. This is based on first come, first serve basis. So please do the fastest fingers first. The first come, first serve will win, and those 5 people will be qualifying for that. Now we will open the floor for question and answers. Please post your questions in chat window, and we'll answer those questions